These aren't the only 5 by any means, right? Happy 5 Fact Friday. 5 Fact Friday. I'm Charlie Lambden, and it is 5 Fact Friday. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another 5 Fact Friday with me, Charlie Lambden. I am in an unusual location. I have an unusually in person for a 5 Fact Friday. I've got Alex with me. Hi, Alex.
Hello, Charlie. How you doing?
Not too bad. I'm kind of happy that it's Friday, if you know what I mean.
No, I'm very familiar with that feeling.
Can everybody hear us both okay? Always good to know you can hear us okay. Hi, Patricia. This is going to be quite a short one this week. And let me start by just reading through the headlines of this week's 5 most significant facts that have been reported in the last 7 days that are going to affect the housing market, I think. So we have got the Bank of England mortgage approvals that have dropped back down, perhaps unsurprisingly after the stamp duty holiday. Have a quick look at that. Half of landlords reported to be planning to raise rents in advance of the Renters' Rights Bill.
Surprise.
It's not own goal much,
Yeah.
but there we are. This is what happens when you let government get involved in a market it doesn't understand.
But it's only £900 a year. I mean, you're hardly even going to notice, given that rents are so high in London now.
Well, we're going to get into that, exactly. Fact number 3, Bloomberg's reported that Labour's stamp duty increase causes the biggest drop in transactions on record. Another round of applause for the government. Item number 4, leasehold reform might be delayed further. There's an update because there was a House of Commons hearing about leasehold reform, which is massive. If it ever happens, it'll be massive. Whether it's going to happen or not, we'll discuss that in a bit more detail. And last but not least, Ed Minibrain,
Mr. Solar,
is going to give us yet another example of how the government should never intervene in private marketplaces. Because if you bother to have a look at what's happened to the car industry since the government started mandating net zero stuff for the car industry, how's that gone for the car industry so far? Been pretty catastrophic for them. Mm-hmm. No, it's not going to stop him. He's going to do it for new house building as well. And we'll talk about that. It'll be reported in the Financial Times. Could someone says yes, so that's good. I'm assuming everyone can hear us. We've got good internet speed here, where we are in West London, in a secret office location in central London. So who have we got here today? How are we? Patricia, hi there. Change is coming. Change is coming, isn't it? Jamie, Allegra 86, hi there. Jim Bob, hi there. Boss Hog 36, hi there. Welcome everyone. Right, let's get into it. So just for those of you who are new, by the way, a lot of new followers, especially on X, had a massive number of new followers on X recently. Been posting some stuff on X. It's much easier for me to quickly shitpost on X than it is to shitpost anywhere else. So I do an awful lot of that. If you're not following me on X, go to X, look for Moving Home with Charlie, and that's where I do most posting and engagement. And it's where my audience is growing the fastest. And for those of you who've seen it, I did a survey on X, asking on X and on YouTube, both of you, how much you trust the content on this channel, and how many of you think that I'm a grifter. So far, it's less than 20% think I'm a grifter.
Yeah, you're doing very well.
That's pretty cool, so thank you for that. Stephen Simmons, MC123, shout out to the Mike Cosgrove think tank. Yeah, I don't mind shouting out Mike Cosgrove.
No, absolutely not.
Pretty impressive stuff he posts all the time. Shall we get into these 5 facts then, and what they mean for the housing market? So let me share. Are you seeing these? You got these links on your?
I haven't, but it's fine.
If you got the link on, so on the Bank of England database.
I'm just looking at the approvals for lending secured on dwellings.
Seasonally adjusted or
non-seasonally adjusted, as always.
Because recently, seasonally adjusted non-seasonally have just been doing the opposite to each other.
Well, they haven't this time, but it's minimised the impact.
I think so. Let's just get this up on the screen nice and big because it's worth seeing. I haven't actually got your. I don't have your handsome face on the screen. There we are. Got your handsome young face on the screen.
Oh
now.
God.
Right. So the Bank of England releases its mortgage approvals data, which is, as far as we know, precise to the individual unit. Right. This is not an. It's not an estimate.
Yeah, if for new house purchases, it is very accurate. When you go on to remortgaging, it's not so accurate because if you stay with the same lender and you remortgage, it doesn't appear in these stats. But it's very accurate for house purchase.
Right. So on screen, I'm showing right now the exact non-seasonally adjusted, so the unmolested figure for the Bank of England's figure for new purchase mortgage approvals. So this is not including remortgages. January was 51,000. February was 61,000. March was 70,000. April was 62,000. So it went up and up to March. March, I'm surprised it wasn't higher in March, honestly, with the stamp duty deadline. It genuinely surprised me because it would appear that the huge transaction spike, which HMRC reported for March, was mostly down to cash purchases.
Yes.
Especially because a lot of landlord investors buying.
Exactly.
So, but it still surprises me that there wasn't a bigger.
Well, you say that, that's still 7,000 more transactions, so more than 10% more than there were the previous March.
Yeah, but in October last year we had 72,000 for no particular reason.
Yeah, but seasonally, that's not unusual.
No, okay, all right. And last July, 73,000. Yeah, and last March, 63,000. Yeah, so I mean, to me, there's nothing in that Bank of England mortgage approval data that shows any big swing one way or the other. It's all kind of just doing seasonal stuff. Although the reduction in April is unusual.
Yes. Yeah, as you can see from the year before, if you look at 24, it's a straight line up January, February, March, April. That just keeps climbing.
Well,
and then you flatline a bit. And then often there's a peak again from sort of October, November, depending on how the market's doing. So if you look back to 23, you'll see that it's a horrendous time.
Right. Do you remember that was when we said it was going to be horrendous? I'm like, no, it's going to be fine.
Fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the surprise was when it started picking up in February of 24, which of course,
April 23 was 46,000 for comparison. So we are at 62,000. We are, I mean, that's a big chunk up on April 2023.
Yes.
Yeah. But again, so for everyone to understand the importance of transaction volumes, right? Transaction volumes indicate the health of the functioning housing market. They are independent of prices, and it's all about health of the housing market. And it's very important. Arguably, would you agree that the transaction volumes is the most important metric in the housing market?
For whom?
For the health, just the function of the housing market. Yeah. Okay. So, and as we keep on talking about, if the industry got out of its own way, the number of transactions would double.
It could potentially double, although prices are something of a barrier.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But not just prices, transaction times.
Well, that doesn't,
massively.
It's a whole bunch of things. The fact that there are fewer first-time buyers, and so there are more people in chains, which means you have more fall-throughs, which means you get lower transaction volumes. All of these things feed in. But bottom line, you're quite right. If we have higher transaction volumes, that suggests the market is doing well. You can see that if you go back to 2003 to 2008, where transaction volumes were huge, the market was doing very well, but that was all based and predicated on ridiculous lending. Unfortunately, we appear to be going back to the idea of ridiculous lending. Sadly, not at 125% loan to value, but at huge multiples over very long periods of time. So absolutely,
and now interest only.
And now interest only. So screwing people into the ground as much as is possible.
Right. Okay. Let's go into fact number 2 because we are short on time today. Fact number 2: nearly half of landlords to raise rent ahead of renters' rights bill.
Yay! Because the last few years of 25% increases really haven't hurt at all.
Honestly, this is when government should get involved. There are aspects of the renters' rights bill that are good. There are some aspects that are good, improved protections for both tenants and landlords. But some of these things have been so poorly thought through.
Yeah.
These are utterly predictable
Well, the
effects.
inability to pay more than a month in advance is
Yes.
just insane.
So buy-to-let lender, Landbay, says 44% of landlords want to raise rents before the bill is enacted, as expected later this year, after which hiking rents will become more difficult.
Yeah, because they've got fixed percentages they're allowed to increase.
So predictable. Anyway, so we're going to crack on. We haven't got much time today. That's fact number 2. Fact number 3, Bloomberg reported that Labour's taxes ice London's housing market. And they report, well, the secret of post-war UK politics has been to keep house prices rising, so the middle class voters feel
Richer.
wealthier.
Yeah.
This most basic of UK electoral rules, it's the housing economy, stupid.
I've seen that somewhere before.
Yes, it's housing, not the economy, stupid, has escaped Doris from accounts, whose tax policy has smothered an already struggling market.
Did they actually call her Doris for accounts?
I'm calling her Doris.
Okay. I thought Bloomberg. It's unusual for them.
They said Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves. Small though her tweaks are, they're having a profound psychological effect on confidence because they display the likely approach for the next 4 years.
Yep.
So yes, again, government intervention not helping.
Well, it's certainly not going the way that she thought it would, in the same way that her house building program is an absolute fucking joke.
Yes.
So,
Right, next, we're smashing through these. Fact number 4, Commons debate offers little progress on leasehold reform. And guys, go and read that article if you want to. It's on Property Industry Eye. There was a live video Commons debate. And unfortunately, it was reading between the lines like, yes, we're really sorry. It's not going as fast as we hoped. And it doesn't look like it's going to get any faster because it's so difficult to get it, because we must get it right.
Right.
See? We've got to get it right. So it's a bit more complicated than we thought, which for me says, I'm afraid, my optimism in leasehold reform happening in this government is dropping to close to zero.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is really, really bad news for everybody, because that would be good if it happened. Last but not least, Ed Minibrain, ministers to confirm solar panels for new build housing in England. Details on future home standard come as separate spending review negotiations remain in final stages. But it says the future homes standard will require all new build homes to have solar panels and low carbon heating, such as heat pumps, as well as high levels of energy efficiency. The problem here is not that it isn't, because you can hear them talking about that. I mean, this is a no-brainer. It's going to reduce energy bills.
It's not a no-brainer.
It's a terrible idea, because what happens when you start mandating what the consumer wants to buy, so the consumers don't want to buy it, don't want to pay for it. And this is very, very unwise. What you have to do is to create incentives for people to do the things that you want. And if you create incentives for people to do them, guess what? They will do them. Whereas when you mandate it and go, you will do what we're telling you to, because we're the government. Hi, we're here from the government, and we're here to help.
I mean, the reality is, in a new build, if it's built correctly, and you're using, if not passive house standards, at least something approaching, there is very little requirement for heating in our climate, depending on where you live in the country. And so heat pumps, yes, they can work. Now, there are lots of complaints about noise, there are complaints, but most importantly, about cost, and solar panels as well. So what are we going to do? We're going to subsidize the developers who are going to now be enforced that they've got to put these in. If so, how are we going to subsidize them? Or are they simply going to be passed on in higher house prices? I mean, how does it work? Which way are we going to get screwed?
I don't think, I think what's going to happen is the new house builders are going to go, no, we're just not going to build them.
Well, they're not, but they're not building because the land values are too high.
And this is going to make it even worse.
Yes.
How can Ed Minibrain not understand that?
Because he's damaged. He is Minibrain.
I mean, how can he not hear the developers going, but we already can't afford to build that. We're not making...
Gas cheap, electric expensive.
Patricia says, Ed Miliband does not know building regs will not pass if solar panels not installed following building regs. So I think she's implying that he doesn't even understand that it's going to be... if I understand what she's saying, let me read it again. Ed Miliband does not know building regs will not pass. So he does not know that building regs won't pass if the solar panels aren't installed following building regs. I think what you're saying is planning, the existing rules won't allow it without changing the existing rules or something. It sounds like.
No, you absolutely have to change. I mean, the planning rules will have to change to stipulate that solar is a requirement.
Yeah.
But then it becomes, it's difficult as it is. But when you've got a block of flats, for instance, rather than an individual house, what are you going to do? Yeah, and then the maintenance. Who's responsible for the maintenance of those solar panels?
It's terrible. So, quick question, Steve, on leasehold. What's your opinion on leaseholds, and does the Leasehold Reform Act assist in any way? What was supposed to be my completion on the 9th is being scuppered by needing a deed of variation. Yeah, that's very frustrating when you have completions delayed by that kind of stuff. But deed of variations do happen, so I wouldn't worry, it should go through. But the Leasehold Reform Act, I mean, it would be great if it happened.
Well, depending on what they change it to, is it going to become common hold? What's the?
It would definitely, on balance, benefit leaseholders. It would. That's what we'll do, and that's the reason that it's not going through is because the freeholders are going. We could do a lot of things in the way.
I'm going to throw a contrarian argument in there, in the same way that I do for developers, because people always blame developers. They're land banking, they're making huge profits, all this sort of stuff. And the reality is that actually building with all of the regulations and planning, when it's all added together, just is rarely economically viable, especially in the market where house prices are not rising. And the same thing for service charges. Yes, without a shadow of a doubt, there are companies ripping off leaseholders because they're putting service charges through the roof. And they are not necessarily getting the best value from the people who are coming in to do the work that they are claiming is required, and therefore they can charge £25,000 a year in service charge. That happens, no doubt. But conversely, I have friends who are leaseholders, but also they own part of the freehold across big blocks. And they have taken on the responsibility of being the managing agent, etc. And there's a group of them. And they work through the costs, and their service charges, because they're paying it themselves, is as cheap as they can get it. And the problem is work and maintenance costs, as we know from if you're trying to repair your own house, have gone through the roof recently. And so he's saying, I'm my own agent. I'm the managing agent. I'm working this through. This is the cheapest, but I'm having to charge myself. My service charge has tripled in the last 5 years. So, on balance, there will be people who, if for instance, the service charge then becomes something that is decided between the leaseholders because they will no longer be leaseholders, be common on, however it is, they may be in for a shock if they think that they're going to get a sudden massive reduction. And actually they need like a sinking fund and they've got to have all of this. They may find that actually they're not in a much better position, except they have the ability to go and choose who is going to do the work. But it's difficult. It's not always going to end up being cheaper.
Guys, we're going to wrap it up there. I've got to catch a train. I think you have too.
Yes, yep.
Thanks for watching. Links below to all those sources and links to all other links in the description below. Have a great weekend.